This is WSB TV Channel 2 Atlanta, Georgia, the 10 half of the team, Georgia, the news segment, Thursday, November 1st, 1973. Good morning, everybody. I'm Peter Wiggins. Today is what's happened on the news headlines at 9 o'clock. In Miami, President Nixon's fight to keep the White House tapes confidential was a stand-on principle and was not made in fear of an incrimination. The Miami Herald quotes Nixon's closest friend and saying, in the copyright story, the Herald in today's edition quoted that C.G. Baby Rebozo saying that in a very personal interview that Nixon was motivated by the same character and in the same high principles when he exhibited refusing to contest the Illinois vote in his loss to John F. Kennedy back in 1960. I'm very logical, and it's hard for me to convince that a man would sit there and talk to people, being that one of the only that knew that it is being recorded and say something that might incriminate him. Rebozo was quoted telling Herald reporters, I believe again and he was standing on in principle and didn't want to not only validate the separation of power, but he didn't want to condemn future presidents in the same situation by giving in. The Herald said Rebozo made a statement in a Wednesday interview with the first quoted by Rebozo since Nixon became the president in 1969. Rebozo, an close friend of Nixon since 1950, said he is not the kind of man you wanted to necessarily warn, but then immediately the Herald reported. That newspaper said they characterized the president as a unique person and a very deep thinker dedicated to his country. But he's so dedicated to his country and his job that he doesn't have time for the normal small talk that people freely relax and indulge in. The Herald said that Rebozo denied that it is to keep his game bank and operated on private investment fund on Nixon's behalf. And he has defended his handling of $100,000 campaign contribution from billionaire Howard Hughes. He said in a 12-week investigation by the Internal Revenue Service that included many wrongdoing and any contribution, the paper said. The Herald quoted that Rebozo saying that he did not tell Nixon on the Hughes money for almost 2 years after receiving it in 1969 and did not return the money until well after the IRS probe began. He said that the IRS had not become interested in the money. He would not have been using in studying for a congressional campaign, the newspaper said. The Herald said Rebozo complained during the interview that he and his bank suffered as just unbelievable harassment by investigators from the Senate Watergate Committee. Washington, the White House said no tape recorders were made of the two presidential conversations considered essential to the Watergate investigation, and it will be witnessed to the court to prove it. The record has never existed, and President Nixon's lawyer said Wednesday. The Secret Service technician Raymond C. Zumwalt, who installed and serviced the automatic recording equipment in the President's office, Zumwalt's Boston technician's assistant, was scheduled to testify today before Judge John J. Stricker, U.S. District Judge. For all the court facts have level statements and eventual agreement by the president complied with the court orders. The existence of 9 tapes sought by Watergate investigators was never questioned. Deputy Press Secretary Gerald Warren said to the White House that Nixon has been unaware that until last weekend that specific conversations of June 20th, 1972 and April 15th, 1973 were not recorded. J. Fred Buzzard told circa a 4-minute conversation on June 20th between Nixon and former Attorney General John N. Mitchell was on the telephone, not connected to recorders. The President Counsel, J. Fred Buzzard, said. And the April 15 conversation between the President and former counsel John W. Dean III was not recorded due to the malfunction of the system or in the democracy system, Buzzard told Zureka. Warren explained that the extensive conversation discussions in Nixon's office on April 14 and 15 prior to the Dean meeting have been recorded, but he said when this conversation took place, that the first recorder that ran out filled up and an alternate recorder was not activated until the next day, the 16th. April 15 was a Sunday. Zumwalt testified Wednesday that the equipment was serviced on one weekdays and that they switched the system on a second 6-hour reel. It was apparently didn't work. He stated it was the only failure he knew of. The missing recordings included what Mitchell told Nixon in the first reported conversation following Watergate break-in of June 20, 1972, and on what he passed between Nixon and Dean in a meeting in which Dean said Nixon admitted discussion of clemency and a part of a Watergate cover-up. The disclosure brought quick reaction from the senators and both parties. As of this moment, President Nixon is the burden of a clear one and satisfying to the American people that he has been speaking the truth. If he fails in his end, we are faced with a political crisis and the most profoundly disturbing proposition, said James L. Buckley, the Congressman Republican of New York. Republican Mark Hatfield of Oregon said that the revelation that the very tapes that have been fought over the brink of a constitutional confrontation don't exist dramatically escalates the problem of this administration's credibility. Senator Hubert H. Humphrey, Democrat of Minnesota, called it incredible and said, surely the president and his counsel must have known this situation and its lapses during all the discussion with the court and in the Senate committee. The public is fed up with this sort of business. Senator Aaron M. Kennedy, Democrat of Massachusetts, said, I find it astonishing. Archibald Cox was ousted as a special prosecutor for rejecting a presidential compromise offer and concerning and let tape said that he believes that the White House representatives he dealt with knew nothing about the condition of the tapes. He said that he learned the problems with the April 15 recording shortly before he was fired. In the court memorandum and supporting the subpoena filed. Recordings Cook said he had the tape of June 20th Mitchell conversation. We'll intend to confirm Mitchell's version of the day. We told the president only 5 men was involved in the show more candidate report. If Dean's version in April 15 meeting was true and accurate, the memorandum said that the testimony would indicate that important dimension to the cover-up conspiracy, false and misleading perjury and stress has been done, for which a grand jury can return an indictment. Richard Benveniste, prosecution force lawyer who questioned Zumwalt, said that he was attempting to explore all the circumstances surrounding the fact that the tapes according to the White House never existed, and it was also the first chance for the prosecution force lawyer to get to tell testimony of the taping orientation of the taping operation. As Zumwalt said, under question and that the initial tapes were made February 16, 1971, and that the equipment was dismantled July 18 of this year. Meanwhile, the Senate Watergate Committee was in the dirty tricks phase in its investigation with testimony from Clark McGregor, who succeeded Mitchell as director in the 1972 Nixon re-election campaign. Next week, the committee will look into the campaign financing. It heard Wednesday from the Beryl I. Brennan, Senator Edmund S. Muskie's campaign manager, that Muskie's most vital political strategy document and polls of the 2 key Democrat primary states operating was stolen from campaign headquarters. Meanwhile, former Attorney General Richard G. Clandestine issued a 4-page statement saying that it's threatened to resign rather than obey President Nixon's order last April to drop on appeal of the antitrust case, and that the president charged his mind in the face of the threat. The suit against the corporation continued to result in a settlement. Washington, after initial skepticism, U.S. officials are virtually certain that Egyptian has Russian-built missiles capable of hitting Israeli cities. Intelligence sources reported about 20 mobile SCUD missiles with a range up to 200 miles have been identified as being in Egypt. Missiles with such a reach probably could have hit Tel Aviv and Jerusalem if fired from northern Egypt, they said. Pentagon spokesman Jerry W. Fredholm refused to comment on the report. There were strong indications that the guided missiles armed with high explosive weapons and nuclear war, as they even told the missiles could bring and cause significant damage and bring the war to Israeli civilians. American intelligence specialists are unable to say whether the missiles are manned by Russians or Egyptians. Either way, they reported an appearance on the SUDs in Egypt adds a serious new military factor in the unresolved Arab-Israel dispute for the first time, and puts any Egypt a major offensive weapon in that community in the Israeli cities. Washington, for today at least, the President Nixon seemed to have the Egyptians Israelis when he wanted them in the same city, talking about $1 million some an hour, despite the president doing at the same time. Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir and Egyptian Foreign Minister Ismail Fahmy did not come to Washington and talk to each other. Instead, they came separately to plead their own special interests and obtain as much support as possible from Nixon for positions that appeared to be in direct conflict. Before a breakfast meeting with Secretary of State Henry Kissinger today in a noon session with President, Mrs. Meir told reporters that problems and questions that wasn't out of the country's relationship with the United States. She asked her to talk with the President and Kissinger to seek answers and clarifications. Mrs. Meir said upon her arrival Wednesday afternoon. She described as an oversimplification reports Israel had been subjected to undue pressure from the United States concerning ceasefire lines. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv Wednesday, Israel's military command spokesman said dozens of trucks carried emergency supplies from the Egyptian 3rd Army line fought the Israeli Suez Canal lines. I believe operation for 20,000 men, and even circle military force was in the 3rd day on the southern end of its waterway. The Israeli military spokesman said the cargo was at about a half of 125 truck convoy had been shipped to the east of the bank of the canal. In Cairo, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat continued to be refused to exchange Israeli war prisoners until Israeli pulled back the October 22nd ceasefire lands establishment by the United Nations Middle East truce. He also said that once Israel's brought, Egypt would be willing to start immediately with the peace talks and the international peace conference and the UN sponsorship. Egypt continues says publicly that willing to negotiate directly with Israel, although it would be intended international conference once the Israelis break through the October 22nd lines. Perhaps there are indications that Egypt may be more inflexible. United States officials said that they were pleasantly surprised by Fahmy and predicted important progress within weeks. In fact, it was Fahmy's visit and the report to this friendly reception that caused Ms. Meir to be suddenly come to Washington. She, as we said, felt it was a time to reestablish an image of a close relationship with Nixon. Ms. Meir said in the United States until Saturday, taking advantage of the opportunity to talk with influential businessmen and members of Congress. U.S. sources agreeing with suggestions that these contacts will result in the public and private commitments to the support. That will help them, Ms. Meir, both at home and affirming a government position and still holding major influence in U.S. policy making and applying indirect political pressure on Nixon.
Do you need an ambulance, Julie?
Thus was an family has been in the United States since Monday and has been seeing Kissinger twice and Nixon once on Wednesday. The Egyptian official who was informally named Foreign Minister Wednesday spent 45 minutes with Nixon at the White House shortly after his appointment was announced. As he added about his previous conversation with Kissinger, Fahmy said his talk with Nixon had been useful. No details were made about available to meeting, but Fahmy reported gave Nixon a message from Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. Kissinger told reporters earlier Wednesday that we believe that we are making progress on the Middle East problem, and later told Nixon that he had family and told some very close talks. Although she made no secret of the problems and questions with her government was concerning U.S. policy, Mrs. Meyer said at her airport arrival ceremony that they will American and steadfast friends. I come to Washington, come to a friendly country, a friendly government, and a friendly president, 76-year-old Prime Minister said. And in fact, Ms. Meyer contributed in the close relations that brings the problems in and at the same time it allows her to frankly discuss the situation. It will be almost unnatural for the United States to see things exactly in the same light as Israel sees it, she said. Washington President Nixon today named Senator William B. Saxby Attorney General and approved the select Leon Jaworski as new Watergate Special Prosecutor with full independence and safeguards against being fired. The President also promised not to be discharged Jaworski and his head with Archibald Cox without obtaining the consent of the House and Senate Democratic and Republican leaders and top members of the two judiciary committees in Congress. Nixon appeared personally in the White House briefing room to announce his nomination of Saxby, an Ohio Republican who was not 16 in re-election as successor. Ellie Richardson resigned on October 25th and filed Nixon's orders to fire Cox. The President went out and answered the questions, turned the podium over to Attorney General Barbara Bork, who was announced that Jaworski would become a special prosecutor to pursue the Watergate matter and related subjects. Bork said that Jaworski has been promised a full cooperation in the executive branch should Jaworski decide that he needs presidential documents. Bork said there would be no restrictions on his freedom. Bork said Jaworski had confident the late President Lyndon B. Johnson would have been the same broad mandate which had been given to Cox. Bork said that Nixon has given his personal assurance that he will not fire Jaworski without first consulting with the substantive side congressional leaders and asserting that the consensus is in accord with his proposed action. The firing of Cox after his refusal by Nixon orders to drop efforts to obtain confidential White House tapes and documents touch on massive controversy and trigger moves to start impeachment proceedings. Bork underscored at the same point saying, Mr. Jaworski is not coming on any limitations in his freedom of action, but the bearded former Yale professor who assumed the role of an Attorney General on October fired Cox his first act, saying he does not expect to continue court battles over access to the White House tapes and documents. I anticipate reasonableness on both sides, he said. As for our staff of investigators and of prosecutors that the court should form, Bork indicated he believed that Jaworski would obtain Cox's appointees. I stated to him that I thought that a staff was indispensable and rapid prosecution in these cases. Bork said he fully agreed it. He said it would be up to Jaworski to decide whether to pursue such investigations that report the problem. Presidential friend CGBB Rebels was handling a $100,000 campaign contribution from. Fielder Howard Hughes sources said Wednesday that the administration had settled on Jaworski and Saxby. It was today Saxby had made clear when he wanted the cabinet job and desired that they both Nixon mentioned today. And being comments Nixon today to expect overwhelming approval of the Senator's nomination of Saxby. Referring to Saxby recently in the announced election of forsake re-election campaign and the return to Ohio, Nixon said he wanted to practice law and I have been given him an opportunity to have the largest law firm in America. Around the world at glance in Zurich, Switzerland, Edith Irving, whose husband's attempt to write a bogus biography of Howard Hughes landed her in jail and has been freed pending a new trial. Mrs. Irvin, who was convicted on March 8th of a guilty plea, acted as courier in the Swiss bank transactions involving $450,000 to $650,000 events was given to her husband by McGuire Hill, the New York publisher. Victimized by the hoax, Mrs. Irvin appealed to contend she was denied benefit of a real favor to defendants on multiple points. She has learned only the motive of in helping her husband and Clifford to save a faulty marriage. Irvin is in jail. The new trial could be meeting a letter sentence. Memphis, Tennessee, rock singer George Lee Lewis has been jailed, fined, and given a probation term in connection with his charge of driving while intoxicated. Lewis threatened pleading guilty Tuesday. He was fined $50 by City Court Judge John Getzwell, so jailed Lewis for 4 days and put him on 364 days of probation. Lewis was detained by police October 17th after his car swerved and it was reported to the scene of an accident.
What is it? So he's on Facebook.
Boston, Paul W. White. Dr. White, a pioneer in the study and the treatment of heart disease, died at the age of 87. White, an impulsive exercise and a similar died of complications from 2 strokes in Massachusetts Hospital, where he began his medical career in 1913 as his wife Hannah was at his bedside. Washington, President Nixon, in the Annals of Medicine, Dr. Paul W. White will be remembered as a man who not only revolutionized the treatment of heart disease, but he also educated millions of people. Americans not prevent heart attacks. He was called and intended the president to recognize on our 1955 following the president's critical heart attack. Dublin, a helicopter swooped down in the Dublin prison yard Wednesday, picked up 3 key leaders of the Irish Republican Army and whirled away in the most sensational jail escape in New Ireland's history. History Island. Army troops and police immediately launched a nationwide manhunt for fugitive IRA chiefs and the heavily armed hijackers and men who described as bogus American filmmaker rendered chopper. The slick James Bond style operation at Monterey prison from That defeats Seamus Stormy, the veteran Iranian commander, and the Belfast and the two of our Irish leaders, Joe O'Hagan and Kevin Mallon. It just Walton didn't use a jumbo jet would have included the whole prison, said one police officer as a helicopter rode away in a storm of dust. President Ngan Ven Phu charged the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong are making the serious preparation of a new offensive indications. Law enforcement struck force also indicated that the forces are unable to deal with another not means offensive will ask for U.S. air support. New York True Television Networks, NBC and ABC said they will give copies of the tapes and transcripts of the special news broadcast that President Nixon stated considers unfair to the National News Council. The council, a private and non-profit group, has invited both the White House and the network participated in an investigation of Nixon's charge of bias reporter CBS said it would be in the response Monday. Los Angeles worst brush fire ended the season which flamed throughout 2005 and 58 acres of seaside neighborhood was forced and recreation hundreds of expensive homes was such a teenage arsonist, fire officials said. A ranch worker saw a youth running from the scene where the blaze began only minutes before it was discovered, officials said. The blaze was still burning, but the men declared official contained. In Seoul, the South Korean government is going to apologize to Japan to improve relations strained by the kidnapping of South Korean opposition leader Kim Dae-jung from Tokyo Hotel on August 8th. The foreign minister Kim Young-sik said Premier Kim Jong-pil were taken to Poland to Turkey in prison since Friday. Kim Dae-jung was released from house arrest in Seoul last Friday and said he planned on going to the United States to take up a fellowship at Harvard. For weather, fair today tonight with cloudiness increasing Friday afternoon. Tonight's low in the 40s. High today, Friday near 72 degrees. Right now at Hartsfield Airport in Atlanta.
You know what, Mike? Thank you for coming. I'm going to have to go.
It is 49 degrees at the temperature with a dew point about 44, humidity 83%, barometer 29.97, visibility 10 miles winds west by 9, condition clear skies. That's going to be it for the WSB TV Channel 2 today in Georgia News Sport Minutes, November 1st, 1973. Period. Have a good day, and I'll see you and that's on the Today in Georgia on WSB TV Channel 2 Atlanta. Have a good day.